As the industry is moving more towards an Industry 4.0 approach to manufacturing, the ability to establish zero-touch production is vital. Probing your parts to establish the setup means less steps in your workflow. By probing multiple parts on a single machine, your shop can achieve lights-out manufacturing with less errors. We will cover the best way to set this up and the benefits of this approach in this 2-minute tech tip. To optimize CNC machining, it's best to try to use as much of the workspace on the machine as possible. Setting up multiple parts on the table means that cycle time is reduced as well as minimizing of tool changes overall. The challenge tends to be that setup time is the same since the parts location still needs to be established. The CAMWorks probing operation can be used to find the parts on the table as well as define their work offsets. Thus, the operator only needs to set up the parts in their vices in a general area relative to the machine's home position, but not be too concerned with positional accuracy. The additional benefit of this method is it doesn't rely on the stock size to be consistent between the CAM part file and the actual stock sitting on the machine, as the operation has parameters to account for the differences and will adapt to them. The XYZ coordinates measured by the probe are saved and used to define the coordinates of the part's work offset. This operation can even be run after the part has been modified by a preceding operation like a face mill, which could be used to level off the stock prior to establishing the Z work offset. CAMWorks integration with its SOLIDWORKS means that the actual programming of the probing operation is as simple as selecting the part model faces, or in some cases, CAMWorks can automatically select the faces for the programmer. Combining this with the feature-based CAM programming functions available, the overall workflow from programming to setup can be optimized and automated. Here, we've been looking at a setup comprised of 2 parts of the same design on a single table. This will double production and doesn't require any additional programming since CAMWorks will just apply the same toolpaths to both parts based off the same workflow. The assembly mode being used means that the tool changes can be minimized and the operations can be sorted to control tool travel. Within the SOLIDWORKS environment, the placement of the parts is controlled. Without probing, the operator would need to make sure the placement of the parts on the machine in real life matches the exact positions detailed inside SOLIDWORKS, or else the code won't work. With probing, the parts only need to be aligned with the X and the Y axes since the placement will be determined by the probe and located via a work offset. CAMWorks is compatible with many probes and probing cycles in the industry, but check with your post writer to make sure your post processor recognizes that you have added these operations. The use of edge finders and probes is not new, but the need to optimize production and the rise of automation means that a shop looking to move into the future of manufacturing will need to implement more lights-out based workflows. Programming using a SOLIDWORKS assembly file is possible with a SOLIDWORKS CAM Professional or a CAMWorks license. The workflow in assembly mode is pretty much the same as when using a single part file in part mode. To learn more about programming in CAMWorks or creating assemblies inside SOLIDWORKS, consider taking a look at our learning paths and videos on the Solid Professor platform.